What if I told you that there's a specific Tuesday in March when I watched my wife of 8 years walk into apartment 12B, disappear for exactly 97 minutes, and then come home to tell me about her successful doctor's appointment? But here's what made my blood run cold. She'd been doing this same routine for 8 months, and I had been the one encouraging her to never miss those appointments. 3 months ago, I discovered that my wife's mysterious health condition, the one I'd been so worried about, the one that required weekly monitoring and expensive supplements I happily paid for, didn't exist. But the man she was visiting every Tuesday at 2 p.m. certainly did. If stories like this fascinate you, the kind that make you question everything you think you know about the people closest to you, hit that subscribe button. You won't want to miss what's coming. My name is David, and until recently I considered myself pretty observant. I'm a software engineer, details matter in my line of work. A misplaced semicolon can crash an entire system. So when my wife Sarah started mentioning more frequent doctor's appointments, I noticed. Another checkup? I'd ask, glancing up from my laptop. Just routine stuff, she'd reply, already grabbing her keys. Dr. Martinez wants to monitor some vitamin levels. Sarah had always been health conscious. Yoga at dawn, organic everything, regular wellness visits. These appointments seemed like natural extensions of who she was. What threw me off wasn't their frequency, it was their timing. Every Tuesday at 2 p.m. Like clockwork. Now, I'm not proud of what happened next. Paranoia isn't attractive, and I'd never considered myself the suspicious type. But something felt orchestrated about these appointments. Too precise. Too convenient. The first time I drove past Westfield Medical Center on a Tuesday afternoon, I told myself I was being ridiculous. Sarah's Honda wasn't in the parking lot, but maybe she'd parked around back. Maybe Dr. Martinez ran late. Maybe I was losing my mind. The second time, 2 weeks later, her car wasn't there either. By the third time, my hands were shaking on the steering wheel. I started documenting everything. Screenshots of her calendar. Photos of empty parking lots. Times, dates, license plates of every car that wasn't hers. Meanwhile, Sarah continued her routine with unsettling consistency. She'd return home around 4:30, always with the same story. Everything looks good. Dr. Martinez says my iron levels are improving. She'd even bring home those little medical pamphlets sometimes, the kind they stack in waiting rooms about seasonal allergies or heart health. Props in a performance I was only beginning to understand. The breakthrough came when I called Westfield Medical pretending to confirm an appointment for my wife. "I'm sorry, sir, but we don't have a Dr. Martinez on staff. We never have." The receptionist's voice echoed in my car for what felt like hours. I sat in that clinic parking lot, staring at the building where my wife had never set foot, trying to process the enormity of what I'd just learned. But here's where the story takes a turn that still keeps me up at night. I didn't confront her. Instead, I decided to follow her. The next Tuesday, I called in sick and positioned myself 3 blocks from our house. At 1:45 p.m., Sarah's Honda pulled out of our driveway, turned left on Maple Street, and headed toward downtown, the complete opposite direction from Westfield Medical. She drove for 23 minutes through neighborhoods I barely recognized until she pulled into the parking lot of a modest apartment complex called Riverside Gardens. I watched from across the street as she walked up to Unit 12B and knocked. The door opened, and a man I'd never seen before pulled my wife into an embrace that lasted exactly 47 seconds. I counted. His name was Marcus. 34 years old, divorced, worked in marketing for a local furniture store. I learned all this later after I hired a private investigator who confirmed what I already knew but wasn't ready to accept. But the real gut punch wasn't the affair itself. It was the timeline. 8 months. Sarah had been seeing Marcus for 8 months, meeting him every Tuesday while I believed she was prioritizing her health. She'd been using my concern for her well-being as cover for betraying everything we'd built together. The medical pamphlets? She'd been grabbing them from other doctors' offices during legitimate visits for things like dental cleanings or eye exams. The vitamin deficiency story. Completely fabricated but researched thoroughly enough to answer any follow-up questions I might ask. She'd even scheduled one real appointment with Dr. Rodriguez, not Martinez, at a different clinic entirely. just in case I ever tried to verify her story. The appointment she never kept, because by then she was too deep into her Tuesday routine with Marcus to break character. I confronted her on a Wednesday evening in October. The leaves in our backyard had turned that brilliant shade of amber that Sarah always said reminded her of possibility. Ironic, considering we were about to discuss the end of ours. "I know about Marcus," I said. She didn't deny it, didn't cry, didn't apologize. She just sat down at our kitchen table and said, "How long have you known?" 3 weeks. Maybe longer if I'm being honest with myself. "Are you going to ask me why?" I realized I didn't want to know. The why felt less important than the how someone I'd loved for nearly a decade had become capable of such elaborate deception. How I'd become someone so easy to fool. Sarah moved out the following weekend. She didn't go to Marcus's apartment. Their relationship, it turned out, wasn't built to survive outside the confines of Tuesday afternoons and borrowed time. The house felt enormous without her. I'd catch myself listening for her key in the door, forgetting she wouldn't be coming home with stories about Dr. Martinez and vitamin levels that never needed monitoring. But the strangest part was the relief. For months, I'd been living with a nagging sense that something was wrong, a persistent itch I couldn't scratch. My subconscious had been trying to tell me what my heart wasn't ready to hear. When the truth finally surfaced, it felt less like devastation and more like finally being able to breathe properly again. I learned things about myself during those weeks after Sarah left. I learned that I could cook more than just breakfast. I learned that I actually liked having control of the TV remote. I learned that betrayal, while painful, wasn't fatal. Most importantly, I learned that sometimes the person you think you know best is the one hiding the most elaborate secrets. 3 months later, I'm still processing everything. Sarah and I finalized our divorce last week. She's seeing someone new, not Marcus, but a guy she met at a real doctor's office during an actual appointment for actual vitamin deficiency that developed, ironically, during the stress of maintaining her double life. I've started dating again, cautiously. The woman I've been seeing asked me what I learned from my marriage, and I told her this. Trust isn't about believing everything someone tells you. It's about believing they'll tell you the truth even when it's difficult, especially when it's difficult. If this story resonated with you, or if you've got your own tales of betrayal and recovery, leave them in the comments below. Sometimes the most powerful thing we can do is share our experiences with others who understand. And remember, subscribe for more stories that explore the complicated, messy, beautiful reality of human relationships. Until next time, take care of yourselves. And maybe every once in a while, trust your instincts when something feels off. They're usually trying to tell you something important.